by Everton coach Andy Windsor in 1996. At the end of Wayne Rooney's first season at the Centre of Excellence club. That summary proved to be a spectacular assessment of the player who would go on to become top scorer in England records. And prepare to do so at Manchester United too. What's more, young Rooney has scored 114 goals, averaging just under 4 per game, in 29 games with Everton under-10s. For Rooney, after all, only one match was impressive. The only game I remember now was against Manchester United, when we finished them 12-2 and I scored with an overhead kick from the edge of the box, said Rooney. When I scored a goal, I heard my parents start clapping. I will always remember that day. The same thing was done by Paul McGuinness, the United U10 coach who led the match for the first time. Handling the team in such a short time, McGuinness had to field Peter Schmeichel's son, Casper, because the team didn't have a goalkeeper. McGuinness watched Rooney score Everton's half-dozen goals. He then went to Alex Ferguson to tell him about it. I remember coming back and saying that we were slaughtered by 10 goals, recalls McGuinness. You generally don't want to advertise facts to managers. But I mentioned that we have seen a very good child. United's interest goes underground. Although initial questions reveal that Rooney is an Evertonian who will be loyal to his dream club and will not want to leave Merseyside. Undeterred, he is now on the club's watch list. According to Ferguson, United tried to sign Rooney twice before finally getting him. The first attempt, when the striker was 14 years old, started with a United U15 encounter against Everton U15 at Moss Lane. An encounter which saw England coach Jim Ryan see young Rooney for the first time. It was a good game which I think we won 5-1 or 5-2. But, despite the fact they have been beaten by a few goals, you can see this kid, young Rooney, will not give up. Recalled Ferguson. In fact, in the last 5 or 10 minutes, he slid off the left wing and shot at goal. If he doesn't score, he punches the air in frustration. And that's not unusual for a 15 or 14-year-old. He's the best there I've seen at that age. The problem with kids playing soccer is that you can't really compare them. David Beckham achieved the same kind of level as Wayne. However, you would not compare them as players because they are completely different types. I was looking at Wayne at the time and thought he had all these qualities: determination, a passion that never dies, efficiency. I was really impressed not only by his ability, or because he played really well, but also by his fighting spirit and the assumption that his side could still save the game. For most kids at that age, if they are 3 or 4 goals down in the second half, they tend to give up. But it's kind of a quality that stands out. I almost laughed to myself, he's still fighting. I know I have to do something. I couldn't really tell how big he was from my point of view. And I thought to myself, I have to look at his size. After the match, there was a reception for the Everton boys who played away games. They all had sandwiches and drinks. But I saw one of their coaches. So I walked over to him and said, "Hello." What I really wanted to do was stand next to Wayne to see exactly how big he was. Despite his brilliance, the boy was going through a hard time. He felt the dramatic progress his first few years at Everton slowed down. He has clashed repeatedly with coaches and he also struggles with knee problems and back pain. A chat with former Toffees manager Colin Harvey was later cited as a turning point in Rooney's life. After starting to question his love for the game during the season, the 14-year-old striker was brought over the edge by Harvey for small talk which Rooney still clearly remembers. He said he didn't see a player with the talent I had. So, I will make mistakes if I stop. Uplifting motivation. Rooney also found progress in the medical room, where he was diagnosed with Osgood-Schlatter's disease, commonly known as a pain-related problem. Furthermore, Everton insisted that he should stop playing his favorite sport, which is amateur boxing twice a week. Hard sacrifice. However, the decision had a good impact on the problems on his back. Despite being sick-free, Rooney later admitted, during a difficult year, I seemed to develop a terrible temper and found myself getting into lots of fights on the pitch. England goalkeeper Tom Heaton and United Academy product Burnley, who saw the bickering, laughed at the sight of the Everton striker and United defender Mark Howard receiving red cards for arguing. Quite outrageous of that level, with Rooney in the ranks. Everton's youth team won more than defeat. At the age of 15, he was already appearing for the U19. United talent scouts are always in the audience and have been at work for many years. Like all emerging talent, Rooney is up and down. And the occasional quiet show justifies the thrill. According to former United head of recruitment Jeff Watson, Everton's stance on their assets is very clear. One thing you learn in this business is that clubs always know more about their own players than anyone else, Watson said. When you talk to the Everton people, they are always so sure they have a star in the coaching. They were so confident about Wayne's abilities. Everton knew what they were getting at from an early age. I think Wayne is always waiting for a bigger stage. He didn't have to wait too long. Rooney starred in 3 consecutive FA Youth Cup campaigns for Everton under-18s. Between the ages of 14 and 16. His name has also risen to the attention of the wider world of football. Ahead of the semi-final second leg against Tottenham at White Hart Lane, former Spurs boss David Pleat held a question-and-answer session for some of the home fans, discussing Everton forward to watch out for. Young Wayne Rooney, who appears to have caught the eye of Sir Alex Ferguson, is set to make his way into Everton's first team before the season ends. The call that ultimately came from David Moyes, who had been Everton's manager exactly 3 weeks earlier. Immediately after taking up a stint at Goodison Park, the Scottish man was briefed on a special talent in the ranks of his club. He drove to London to watch a decisive semi-final against Spurs and saw Rooney score twice in the opening 39 minutes. The second goal was fantastic. Scored from 30 meters after his first free kick was blocked. After the match, Rooney was informed that he would be a member of the first team squad the following season. However, Rooney still found time ahead of schedule, being added to the substitute roster 17 days later for Everton's Premier League trip to Southampton. The Merseysiders won 1-0 and, although fans saw Rooney warm up, he remained on the bench. How did Rooney react to being involved in the first team squad at the age of 16 years 5 months and 28 days? I was choking, Rooney recalled. In the dressing room after that, I groaned, said I had to play, but told myself because I don't really know the first team players. Never trained with them. At this point, Wayne's school has been reduced to just 2 days a week so he can spend the rest of his full-time training with Everton. Rooney described that privilege. The first time I realized that I might be special as a footballer, then. The world has arrived at the same conclusion. Rooney took a full role in Everton's preseason, then made his Premier League debut and provided an assist, wearing the number 18 shirt previously worn by Paul Gascoigne, in the 2-2 draw with Tottenham. Aged 16 years and 298 days. After the match, he celebrated by playing soccer on the streets with his friends. Despite starting the opening match, Rooney was carefully managed by Moyes, who put magical potential energy into his team. Wayne's 8 first-team appearances, coming in a League Cup win at Wrexham, yielded 2 goals and made him Everton's youngest ever goalscorer, at which point he really started taking off. 6 days later, he made his first appearance at Old Trafford as a substitute, entering the crowd with 16 minutes remaining of a tense match. A Premier League match that ended goalless. Michael Silvestre, who started alongside Laurent Blanc for the Red Devils that evening, laughed. I remember Jimmy Ryan saying, "Watch the kid. He's fast. He's lightning fast." She was unpredictable and, back then, there weren't many videos of her using her to stop her. I thought, even if we had some videos, he would be able to get past us. It's hard to stop it. Just 4 minutes after coming on as a substitute, Silvestre was close to being tricked by Rooney, leading the counterattack from the center line, past the French defender, then dodging Paul Scholes and Ryan Giggs before firing a low shot that goalkeeper Fabien Barthez almost failed to anticipate. United went on to score 3 late goals and take a point. But Rooney's impact was noted. 10 from then. Arsenal feel the pain of being thwarted by Rooney from 30 meters, the winner, ending the Gunners' 31 straight game unbeaten run. 2 weeks later, it was a sublime lone goal at Leeds that took the headlines. But, only as he became accustomed to the positive press. The lad immediately tasted one of a kind of attention after receiving the first red card of his career on Boxing Day at Birmingham City. Less than 3 months after his 17th birthday. A negative narrative graces the media. English football has a new flawed genius who is to pin on merciless scrutiny and relentless hope. As Wayne later conceded, after finding himself criticized in the newspapers for clothing and attitude at the BBC Sports Personality of the Year dinner, albeit on par with the accolades he earned the whole season. They've built me up, saying it's a breath of fresh air for young players. This new one was brilliant. And now they put their shoes on and portray me as a young, yobbish thug. You can't win. While the scrutiny will fuel the youngster's career path to flourish, there is still a tremendous upside to and excitement about his presence in the Premier League and England national team. This country knows the potential it has. He also becomes the foundation for realizing dreams. Sam Allardyce, while still manager of Bolton, told me after one of Wayne's early plays, "You're so lucky to have such a young talent," recalls Moyes, who had a battle on his hands to keep the lad, especially when Wayne gloriously entered. In the national team, Sven-Göran Eriksson gave Rooney his international debut in February 2003 against Australia and took him to the pivotal Euro 2004 qualifier in Liechtenstein the following month. 4 days after the last one, Moyes received a call from the Swede. Sven called to say Wayne would make his first start for England at Sunderland against Turkey that night. "And I got in the car immediately and drove," said Moyes. "I am proud of Wayne for his achievements at such a young age. At Everton at that time, we didn't have an England international. We're rebuilding the club and trying to get them back to a good level. So Wayne is really the first of the group to start that. I am very happy. But it's always going to be difficult to keep him because at that time at Everton, we weren't ready to compete with the top teams in the country. If Wayne came together 3 or 4 years later, it would be a different situation with the possibility of keeping him." Unfortunately for Moyes, Rooney's second season in football did nothing to convince him that Goodison Park was the right place for him. There has been little change at home, where he scored 8 goals in 37 Everton appearances in 2001-02. Followed by 9 goals in 40 games in 2003-04. But 9 goals in 12 England games, and a series of shifting displays in Euro 2004, made his career climb. Although the tournament saw the teenager ended disastrously with a broken metatarsal bone as England were eliminated in the quarter-finals against Portugal. "I've really always believed that if Wayne wasn't injured against Portugal then we'd go on to beat them and reach the semi-finals," said Gary Neville. "He's phenomenal. What he was doing at that time. No one can handle it. He can change. Run with the ball. Pass opponents. Score goals. He is aggressive. He is everything you want in a football player. He's electric. His courage was extraordinary. The bigger the game, the more he seems to be enjoying. Sometimes you will see players, especially young players, get a little more anxious as we get closer to the game. But he was never like that at all. He never appeared to have any fear of football. In the tournament, he is really amazing, despite the welcome, plus the pile of reports from emerging scouts. United did not budge. Alex has been following him since he came into the Everton youth ranks and first team," said former United CEO David Gill. "Obviously we were interested but, truth be told, we didn't want to do anything that summer because we didn't think he would be sold." Suddenly, Newcastle expressed interest. The move from Goodison Park to St James Park may not seem big enough to an outsider. But during the 2003-04 season, Rooney's relationship with Moyes deteriorated dramatically. The striker felt his manager was fencing him back. Persistent doubts about the Toffee's ambitions and a desire to leave Liverpool, where he feels under intense scrutiny. Rooney is determined to leave the club and will join the Magpies if they become the only bidder. In the event, despite buying Louis Saha and Alan Smith in the previous 8 months, Ferguson's resolve was fractured and he persuaded United's board to join in on the bid. Everton supporters, aware of Goodison's hidden politics, were angry. They acted vandals. Rooney's house was written with graffiti and made death threats to Rooney and his agent, Paul Stretford. The youngster is desperate to move to take his place. But Everton are intent on maximizing the return on their star man. "It takes a little negotiation. As you can imagine," Gill said, smiling. "Moreover, it happened at the end of the transfer window. But we have him." The deal was agreed on the day Everton visited Old Trafford for the Premier League goalless draw. Gill, Ferguson, club lawyer Maurice Watkins, Everton chairman Bill Kenwright and Moyes had serious and tough talks in Ferguson's office after the match. As news of the contract agreement began to spread throughout the club, United players could barely contain their excitement. Ron Atkinson said signing Brian Robson was a sure thing. "Like buying gold," recalled Neville. "And that is exactly when we signed Wayne Rooney." Rooney transferred the following day. August 31, 2004. The transfer deadline. And fans were happy with it. She quickly walks through standard photo shoots and media requirements, including an interview for a club magazine. It took Wayne a few seconds to weigh my offer, wrote the reporter. And about plenty of time left to crush my fingers and take my arm down with a sound that Hulk Hogan would do. Be proud. It was felt at first. Rooney's echo had not been heard because he had to miss a month away from the squad. He is undergoing healing from a metatarsal injury. He must be handled with care. During this time, he'd been hanging around Carrington, getting to know the people in every area of the training center. From the kitchen to the laundry room. Ferguson finds that more than most. With Rooney annoying him every day and reassuring him he's ready to return. After Wayne joined group training, and scans showed that the broken bone had healed, Ferguson told his weekly press conference, he is already very good. He is enjoying it and showing great enthusiasm in training. While we already know, he has fantastic potential, he's brave and fast, he's a shocking header, so, all the available parts of him look great. The manager suggested that a place on the bench would limit Rooney's involvement for a Champions League visit against Fenerbahce. 3 days later, on the condition that he emerge unscathed in training. Before the press conference, however, he had said Rooney would make his debut. The day before the match, Fenerbahce goalkeeper Rustu Rekber was unfazed by the prospect of youth involvement. Start or vice versa. People expect big things from Rooney. But he lacks club football experience at this level, scoffed the Turkish goalkeeper. I have no worries about him. Ruud van Nistelrooy or any of United's other strikers. The following night will unfold to be a nightmare for Rekber and his teammates. For Rooney, the match opened the eyes of the world. A new star was born.